World War II was even more of a total war than World War I. Fighting was much more widespread and covered most of the globe. In Great Britain, 55% of the people were in the armed forces or the civilian war effort. More than 50% of women were worked in civil service positions and had a bigger role in society.
The Dig for Victory was a campaign to increase food production. The Home Guard was founded to fight off German invaders. World War II had an enormous impact on the Soviet Union. The initial defeats of the Soviet Union led to drastic emergency mobilization of factories and emergency production of war materials to repel the invading Germans. The mobilization created another industrial revolution for the Soviet Union. They produced over 78,000 tanks and 98,000 artillery pieces.
In the Soviet Union, 60% of women were working in the industry. The Soviet Union was also the only nation in World War II to use women in combat. Propaganda was used to boost morale and patriotism. The United States' entry into World War II resulted in the end of the Great Depression due to the need for the production of war goods.
Just like in many other countries, propaganda was used to boost patriotism and morale among the people. An iconic sign is Uncle Sam. After Pearl Harbor, public officials, for security reasons, placed over 110,000 Japanese Americans into camps and required them to take an oath of loyalty to the United States. In Nazi Germany, morale was low. As an attempt to keep morale high, Hitler continued to have German factories produce industrial goods. It wasn't until the Americans invaded Europe did Hitler call for total mobilization of Germany.
In the wartime society of Japan, obedience, along with the concept of imperial divinity, encouraged citizens to sacrifice their resources and sometimes to sacrifice their lives for the national cause. Influenced by the Code of Bushido, young Japanese were encouraged to volunteer to serve as pilots in suicide missions against U.S. battleships. They became known as kamikazes or divine wind.
In World War II, bombing was used in a variety of ways. It was used against non-human military targets, against enemy troops, and against civilian populations. It was believed that bombing a city could be used to force countries into surrendering in order to save their people from death. Cities caught in these bombings were left destroyed and in ruins. Bombing raids added an element of terror to circumstances already made difficult by growing shortages of food, clothing, and fuel. After the Japanese mobilization of all people between the ages of 13 and 60, President Truman and his advisors feared that Japanese fanaticism might mean 1 million American casualties. This concern led them to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima on August 6 and Nagasaki on August 9th.
The cost of World War II were very high. At least 21 million soldiers were killed. Civilian deaths were estimated around 40 million. In Europe alone, it is estimated that 30 million people became displaced. These people found it hard to return to their homes after the war. Due to the brutality of war, cities across Europe and Asia were left in ruins. This resulted in a total monetary value estimated at $4 trillion.
During and after the war, there was 3 conferences held between the big 3 of the Grand Alliance. These were Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill. The conference at Tehran, held in 1943, decided the final assault on Germany. The conference at Yalta in the Ukraine in February 1945 resulted in the creation of the United Nations. At the Potsdam Conference, Truman demanded free elections in Eastern Europe, but Stalin declined.
After World War II, the Cold War had begun. It would dominate European and world politics for more than 40 years. It stemmed from military, political, and ideological differences, especially between the Soviet Union and the United States.
The end.